My dear brothers and sisters, imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the one thing you rely on every single day, food, water, the comfort of your routines, is no longer in your control. Imagine willingly giving up the very things that sustain your body, stepping into a space where your hunger is no longer just about food, your thirst is no longer just about water, and your desires are no longer just about satisfying yourself. Why would anyone do that? Why would millions of Muslims across the world embrace this challenge every year, fasting from sunrise to sunset, sacrificing what the body craves? It's because Ramadan is not just about abstaining, it's about gaining, it's about transforming, it's about unlocking a secret power within you that most people spend their whole lives searching for: self-discipline, clarity, patience, and above all, closeness to Allah. Fasting is not a burden, it is a gift. A divine invitation to step beyond your physical existence and dive into a deeper spiritual reality. But here's what many people don't understand. Fasting in Islam is not just about hunger or thirst. It is about discovering who you are when the distractions of life are removed. It is about stripping away the comforts, the habits, the things that make you weak, and revealing the strength Allah has placed inside you. You see, when we fast, we are not just restraining ourselves from food and drink. We are training ourselves to conquer our desires, to rise above temptation, and to prove that we are not just slaves to our instincts, but servants of the most merciful. Some might ask, why do Muslims fast only in Ramadan? Why not fast all year? Why this 1 month? The answer is written in the pages of history, in the verses of the Quran, and the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad. PBUH. Ramadan is not just another month. It is the month. The month where the Quran was revealed. The month where Allah's mercy pours down like rain. The month where every night could be the night that changes your destiny forever. Think about it. Why do athletes train before a competition? Why do soldiers prepare before battle? Because they need to be at their strongest when the moment arrives. Ramadan is that training ground for the soul. It is the time when Allah calls upon his servants and says, "Come to me, let go of the world for a moment. Feel what it's like to live with complete faith in me, to rely on my sustenance, my mercy, my forgiveness." And in that moment, something incredible happens. You start to see food not just as food, but as a blessing. You start to see water not just as water, but as a miracle. You start to understand that everything you take for granted, your health, your time, your ability to breathe, is a gift from Allah. Fasting opens your eyes to the reality that nothing in this life truly belongs to us. It all belongs to Him. But fasting is not just about you. It is about the entire ummah. It is about feeling the pain of those who have nothing to eat, not because they are fasting for Allah, but because they have no choice. It is about connecting with the poor, the needy, the forgotten souls who wake up every day with empty stomachs and still say, Alhamdulillah. It is about remembering that as Muslims, we are one body, one nation, one family under the mercy of Allah. This is why we fast in Ramadan, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Because in a world filled with distractions, temptations, and endless desires, we need a moment to pause, to reflect, to return to our Creator. We need a time where our hearts are softened, our souls are awakened, and our faith is renewed. Ramadan is that time. And my brothers and sisters, if you truly embrace it, if you let go of the distractions, if you commit yourself to these blessed days and nights, then know that Allah is preparing something greater for you, something beyond this world. He is preparing your soul for Jannah, for a life where there is no hunger, no thirst, no suffering, only eternal peace in His presence. So as we enter this sacred month, ask yourself, will you fast just with your body, or will you fast with your heart? Will you see Ramadan as a duty, or will you see it as a chance to become the best version of yourself? Because in these 30 days, Allah gives us the opportunity to change, to grow, to leave behind our sins, and to walk into His mercy with open arms. The choice is yours. Will you take it? Fasting in Ramadan is not just a ritual, it is a divine command from Allah, designed to shape and refine the soul of a believer. When Allah commanded the believers to fast, He did not do so to burden them, but to elevate them, to strengthen their faith, and to teach them the power of self-control. The beauty of fasting lies in its ability to transform not just the body, but also the heart and mind. It is an act of worship that goes beyond abstaining from food and drink. It is a journey of discipline, patience, and obedience. It is a process that refines the soul, training a person to resist temptation and submit completely to the will of Allah. When a Muslim fasts, they are not simply following an ancient tradition, but actively engaging in an act of devotion that brings them closer to their Creator. One of the profound reasons Muslims fast in Ramadan is that it was directly ordained by Allah in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, "O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may attain Taqwa." This verse alone highlights the purpose behind fasting: to develop Taqwa, a deep consciousness of Allah, an awareness that He is watching over us at all times. Fasting teaches a believer to be mindful of their actions, words, and even thoughts. When a person refrains from eating, drinking, and indulging in desires purely for the sake of Allah, they develop an inner strength that extends far beyond Ramadan. It becomes a shield against sin, a reminder that one is always in the presence of Allah, even when no one else is watching. The power of fasting is that it is an invisible act of worship. Unlike prayer, charity, or Hajj, which can be seen by others, fasting is purely between the individual and Allah. No one knows whether a person is truly fasting except for Allah. A person may pretend to fast in front of others, but secretly eat or drink in private. However, a true believer remains steadfast, resisting even the strongest urges, because they know that Allah sees everything. This deepens sincerity in worship, as fasting is an act that cannot be performed for show. It must come from the heart. It builds a strong foundation of faith and strengthens the bond between a servant and their Creator. Fasting in Ramadan is also a test of discipline, a training ground for self-restraint. In everyday life, people indulge in their desires without restraint, eating whenever they feel hungry, drinking whenever they feel thirsty, satisfying every craving. But fasting breaks this pattern. It teaches a person to control their nafs, their inner desires, and to master their own willpower. When a Muslim fasts, they prove to themselves that they have control over their body, not the other way around. If they can resist the most basic human needs for an entire day, they can certainly resist sin, negative thoughts, and harmful actions. This discipline extends far beyond Ramadan, shaping a person's character for the rest of their life. Another beautiful aspect of fasting is that it equalizes all Muslims, regardless of their background, wealth, or status. A rich person and a poor person experience the same hunger, the same thirst, the same longing for food and drink. Fasting removes the barriers of social class and reminds every Muslim that in front of Allah, they are all the same. It builds empathy for those who are less fortunate, those who go hungry not by choice but by circumstance. When a person feels the pangs of hunger, they begin to understand the struggles of the poor, making them more compassionate and generous. This is why Ramadan is also a month of charity, a time when Muslims give more in sadaqah and zakah, ensuring that no one is left behind. Fasting also purifies the heart and soul. It is not just a physical exercise, but a spiritual detox. When a person fasts, their body slows down, their mind becomes clearer, and their heart becomes softer. It is a time to reflect, to seek forgiveness, and to turn back to Allah with sincerity. Many people find themselves more connected to the Quran during Ramadan, more engaged in prayer, and more eager to do good deeds. The Prophet Muhammad taught that in Ramadan, the gates of Jannah are opened, the gates of hell are closed, and the devils are chained. This means that fasting creates the perfect opportunity to change one's habits, to cleanse the soul, and to seek Allah's mercy with a renewed sense of faith. Ultimately, fasting in Ramadan is not just an obligation, but an opportunity. It is a chance to prove one's devotion to Allah, to reset spiritually, and to emerge as a stronger, more disciplined believer. It is a time to break free from bad habits, to purify the heart, and to realign one's priorities with the purpose of life, pleasing Allah. Ramadan is not just about giving up food and drink. It is about gaining a new perspective, a deeper connection with the Creator, and a greater appreciation for the blessings that are often taken for granted. It is a divine command that leads to spiritual elevation, a journey that every Muslim embarks on knowing that the reward is far greater than the sacrifice. The connection between fasting and Ramadan in the Quran is one of the most profound aspects of this blessed month. Ramadan is not just the month of fasting, it is the month of revelation, the time when Allah chose to send down His final guidance to humanity. This divine connection between the Quran and fasting is not coincidental. It is intentional, purposeful, and deeply transformative. When Muslims fast, they are not just engaging in a physical act of worship. They are spiritually aligning themselves with the very essence of the Quran, allowing its light to enter their hearts and reshape their lives. The fasting person is in a state of heightened awareness, a state where the distractions of the world are minimized and the soul is more receptive to divine wisdom. This is why Ramadan is not just about refraining from food and drink, it is about feeding the soul with the nourishment of the Quran. Allah declares in the Quran, "The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for the people and clear proofs of guidance and criterion." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:18-5. This verse alone establishes the significance of this month. Ramadan is not just special because of fasting, it is special because it is the month that brought light to a world filled with darkness. It was in this sacred time that the first words of divine revelation were delivered to the Prophet Muhammad in the cave of Hira. The words, "Read in the name of your Lord who created," Surah Al-Alaq 96:1, were not just a command to the Prophet, they were a call to all of humanity to seek knowledge, to reflect, and to transform their lives through the guidance of the Quran. Fasting prepares the heart for this transformation. When a person is constantly indulging in worldly pleasures, their heart becomes heavy, clouded by desires, distracted by the temporary nature of this life. But when they fast, those distractions fade away. The heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes clearer, and the soul becomes eager to receive the words of Allah. This is why those who truly immerse themselves in the Quran during Ramadan feel a unique sense of peace, a connection with Allah that is unlike any other time of the year. It is as if fasting removes the barriers between a person and their Creator, allowing the Quran to enter directly into their heart. During Ramadan, Muslims around the world dedicate more time to reading, memorizing, and reflecting on the Quran. The night prayers, known as Taraweeh, are filled with its recitation, bringing the words of Allah to life in the hearts of the believers. In those moments when the Imam recites the Quran in long, melodious verses, when tears flow from the eyes of those who listen, when hearts tremble with the power of its message, that is when one truly understands why fasting and the Quran are inseparable. The hunger of the stomach is forgotten, the thirst of the body disappears because the soul is being nourished in a way that food and drink never could. Fasting also allows a person to experience the Quran in a more personal and intimate way. Without the distractions of daily routines, there is more time to sit with the words of Allah, to ponder over their meanings, to ask deep questions, and to seek guidance. Each verse begins to feel like a personal message from Allah, addressing the struggles of life, offering solutions to problems, and providing hope in times of hardship. This is why many Muslims find that Ramadan is the time when they make the greatest spiritual progress, when they develop habits that last beyond the month, and when they form an unbreakable bond with the Quran that continues throughout their lives. There is also a direct reward associated with combining fasting and the Quran. The Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, said, "Fasting in the Quran will intercede for a person on the day of judgment. Fasting will say, 'O my Lord, I prevented him from food and desires during the day, so let me intercede for him.' And the Quran will say, 'I prevented him from sleeping at night, so let me intercede for him.' So they will intercede." Ahmad al-Haq. This hadith is a powerful reminder that fasting is not just about enduring hunger. It is about sacrificing for the sake of Allah and in return earning a reward that will last for eternity. The fasting person who also engages with the Quran is being protected from two major distractions: physical desires during the day and unnecessary sleep at night. When these two powerful acts of worship come together, they elevate the believer to a level of piety and devotion that brings them closer to Allah's mercy. But the Quran is not just meant to be read, it is meant to be lived. Ramadan provides the perfect opportunity to take the words of Allah and apply them in daily life. When a person reads about patience, they practice patience while fasting. When they read about generosity, they give in charity. When they read about humility, they lower their ego. This is the beauty of fasting. It creates an environment where the Quran is not just recited, but embodied. It shapes character, refines behavior, and instills values that remain long after Ramadan has ended. Ultimately, fasting in Ramadan is a means to unlock the full power of the Quran in one's life. It is a time when the distractions of the world are minimized, when the soul is purified, and when the heart is most open to receiving divine guidance. This is why fasting and the Quran are inseparable. One prepares the heart, and the other fills it with light. For those who truly embrace this connection, Ramadan is not just a month of fasting, it is a month of transformation, a journey back to Allah, and a chance to emerge as a better, stronger, and more faithful believer. Fasting in Ramadan is not just an act of worship, it is a powerful lesson in self-discipline and self-control. It is a test of patience, a training ground for the soul, and a way to break free from the shackles of worldly desires. In a world where people are consumed by instant gratification, where every craving is satisfied at the moment it arises, fasting teaches the opposite. It teaches restraint, it teaches perseverance, it teaches the power of saying no to the body so that the soul can say yes to Allah. This is one of the greatest reasons why Muslims fast only in Ramadan, because this month is not just about physical hunger. It is about mastering the self, overcoming the ego, and proving that faith is stronger than any desire. When a person fasts, they are constantly reminded of the presence of Allah. The hunger they feel is not an ordinary hunger, it is a hunger for His pleasure. The thirst they experience is not just the absence of water, it is a thirst for His mercy. Every moment of fasting is a battle against the self, a struggle to resist what is easy for the sake of what is right. It is easy to eat when one is hungry. It is easy to drink when one is thirsty. But when a believer chooses to refrain from these basic needs purely because Allah commanded it, they are exercising the highest form of obedience. They are proving that their faith is not just words, but actions. They are proving that they can control their desires instead of being controlled by them. This level of discipline does not happen overnight. It is a process, a transformation that takes place over the course of Ramadan. In the first few days, the body struggles, the mind resists, and the soul feels restless. But as time goes on, something incredible happens. The body adjusts, the mind adapts, and the soul finds peace. What once seemed difficult becomes second nature. The hunger that once felt unbearable now feels manageable. The thirst that once dominated the mind now feels like a distant thought. This is the power of fasting. It trains a person to endure, to persevere, and to master the art of patience. The self-discipline learned through fasting does not end with Ramadan. It extends into every part of life. A person who can control their hunger and thirst can also control their anger. A person who can resist food and drink can also resist temptation. A person who can wake up for suhoor can also wake up for fajr. This is why fasting is a school of discipline. It teaches habits that stay long after Ramadan is over. It is a training ground for the soul, preparing a believer to face the challenges of life with strength, resilience, and unwavering faith. Fasting also serves as a reminder of the fleeting nature of this world. When a person refrains from eating and drinking, they begin to realize how little they actually need. They realize that much of what they consume is not out of necessity, but out of habit. They realize that their body does not need constant indulgence. It needs balance, restraint, and moderation. This realization extends beyond food. It teaches a person to be content with less, to avoid extravagance, and to appreciate the blessings that they often take for granted. In a time when people are obsessed with materialism, when they constantly chase after more wealth, more possessions, and more pleasure, fasting provides a reset. It reminds a person that true fulfillment does not come from consumption, it comes from connection with Allah. Fasting also protects a person from harmful habits. Many people struggle with addictions, whether it is to food, social media, gossip, or negative thoughts. Ramadan provides the perfect opportunity to break these cycles. When a person fasts, they become more mindful of their actions. They think before they speak. They hesitate before they act. They become conscious of what they consume, not just physically, but spiritually. This heightened awareness allows them to identify their weaknesses and actively work on them. If a person can go an entire day without food and drink, they can certainly go an entire day without engaging in harmful behavior. The self-discipline developed in Ramadan is a reflection of the greater struggle in life, the struggle against the nafs, the lower self. Every person has desires, temptations, and weaknesses, but fasting teaches that these things do not define a believer. What defines them is their ability to rise above them, to control them, and to direct their will towards Allah. It is a training ground for jihad al-nafs, the struggle against one's own soul, the effort to become a better version of oneself. This is why fasting is so special in Ramadan. It is a sacred opportunity to reshape the heart, to strengthen the will, and to master the self. It is not just about hunger, it is about transformation. It is not just about abstaining, it is about growing. It is not just about following a command, it is about proving that faith is stronger than any desire. For those who embrace this lesson, Ramadan is not just a month, it is a life-changing experience. A reminder that true strength lies not in satisfying the self, but in conquering it. Fasting in Ramadan is not just an act of personal worship, it is a powerful force that strengthens the bonds of community and unity among Muslims worldwide. Every year during this sacred month, millions of believers from different backgrounds, cultures, and languages engage in the same act of devotion. They wake up before dawn to partake in suhoor. They refrain from food, drink, and desires throughout the day, and they break their fast at sunset with the same eagerness and gratitude. This shared experience creates an unbreakable connection, a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood that transcends borders, races, and social differences. When a Muslim fasts, they are not alone, they are part of something far greater, a global ummah, united in worship, in sacrifice, and in the pursuit of Allah's pleasure. The beauty of Ramadan is that it strips away the superficial divisions that often separate people. In the eyes of Allah, there is no difference between the rich and the poor, the young and the old, the scholar and the laborer. All are equal in their devotion, equal in their struggle, and equal in their desire to seek nearness to their Creator. When Muslims gather for iftar, sitting side by side, regardless of their status in society, sharing food, exchanging smiles, and making dua for one another, it is a reminder of the unity that Islam fosters. The barriers that exist outside of Ramadan begin to fade, and what remains is a collective spirit of love, generosity, and humility. The masjid becomes the heart of this unity during Ramadan. Muslims come together not only for the 5 daily prayers, but also for Taraweeh, standing shoulder to shoulder in long hours of worship. There is something deeply powerful about hearing the words of the Quran recited in unison, about feeling the presence of fellow believers all striving towards the same goal. In those moments, there is no distinction between race, nationality, or wealth. The only thing that matters is faith. This unity is a reflection of the greater purpose of Islam, to bring people together under the banner of La ilaha illallah, to remind them that they are all part of one family, bound by the same beliefs and values. Fasting also nurtures empathy and compassion, strengthening the bonds between people. When a person goes through the experience of hunger and thirst, even for a few hours, they develop a deeper understanding of what the less fortunate go through daily. This realization moves people to give more, to share more, and to care more. It is no coincidence that Ramadan is the month of charity, where Muslims are encouraged to give zakat and sadaqah, to feed the hungry, to clothe the needy, and to help those who are struggling. This spirit of generosity not only uplifts individuals, but strengthens entire communities, fostering a sense of responsibility towards one another. The unity of Ramadan is not just limited to those who practice it, it also serves as a means of dawah, an invitation for others to witness the beauty of Islam. Non-Muslims often observe the discipline, dedication, and kindness of Muslims during Ramadan and become curious about its significance. Many are inspired by the way fasting brings people together, how it instills gratitude, and how it transforms individuals into better versions of themselves. In workplaces, schools, and neighborhoods, the presence of fasting Muslims becomes an opportunity for dialogue, for understanding, and for breaking misconceptions about Islam. Ramadan also unites families in ways that no other time of the year does. In a world where people are often consumed by their busy lives, where families eat at different times and engage in separate activities, Ramadan brings them back together. Sitting around the table for suhoor and iftar, making dua as a family, reading the Quran together and standing side by side in prayer, it all reinforces the importance of family bonds. Parents pass down traditions to their children, teaching them the beauty of patience, the value of gratitude, and the importance of worship. These shared experiences create memories that last a lifetime, reinforcing the family as the foundation of faith and unity. Even in times of hardship, Ramadan strengthens the unity of the Ummah. When Muslims in one part of the world are suffering due to war, oppression, or poverty, the rest of the Ummah feels their pain. Fasting creates a connection not just to those in one's immediate surroundings, but to the global Muslim community. It reminds believers that their struggles are not isolated, that their prayers are heard collectively, and that their strength lies in their unity. This is why during Ramadan there is an increased sense of awareness for the suffering of others and an increase in efforts to provide relief. Whether through fundraising, donations, or simply remembering the oppressed in dua, Ramadan strengthens the bond between believers across the world. The unity that is built in Ramadan is not meant to disappear when the month ends. It is a reminder of what is possible when Muslims come together, when they set aside their differences, and when they focus on the higher purpose of life. It teaches that beyond fasting, beyond prayer, and beyond individual acts of worship, there is a collective responsibility to uplift one another, to support one another, and to stand together in faith. This is why Muslims fast in Ramadan, because it is not just about personal purification, but about strengthening the ties that hold the Ummah together. It is a time when the love of Allah fills the hearts of His servants, and that love manifests in how they treat one another, how they support one another, and how they stand united as one body, one faith, and one people. Fasting in Ramadan is not just a physical practice. It is a deeply spiritual journey that strengthens the connection between a believer and Allah. It is an act of devotion that brings Muslims closer to their Creator, allowing them to experience the purity of faith in a way that is unmatched by any other time of the year. When a person willingly abstains from food, drink, and worldly desires solely for the sake of Allah, they elevate their soul above their physical needs. They learn to rely on Him completely, to seek His help in moments of weakness, and to surrender to His wisdom with complete trust. This is one of the primary reasons why Muslims fast only in Ramadan, because this month is a divine invitation to deepen their relationship with Allah, to renew their faith, and to experience a level of spirituality that transforms their hearts. When a believer fasts, they enter a state of heightened awareness of Allah's presence. Every moment of hunger becomes a reminder of why they are fasting, not to lose weight, not to impress others, but to please their Lord. Each time their stomach growls or their throat feels dry, it is an opportunity to remember that this sacrifice is for Allah alone. This consciousness of Him, this deep sense of ihsan, excellence in worship, brings about a unique spiritual awakening. The distractions of the world fade, and what remains is a heart that beats in remembrance of its Creator. Fasting clears the mind, purifies the soul, and allows a believer to feel the beauty of being truly connected to Allah. The power of this spiritual connection is felt most intensely in moments of dua. A fasting person is in a constant state of ibadah, worship, and their prayers carry immense weight. The Prophet Muhammad said that the dua of a fasting person is never rejected. This means that each whispered prayer, each sincere supplication, and each tear shed in longing for Allah's mercy is met with divine acceptance. It is in these moments, when hunger and exhaustion set in, that the heart softens, the ego diminishes, and the soul is humbled before its Lord. A believer feels closer to Allah than ever before, knowing that He is listening, that He is near, and that He understands every silent plea in the depths of their heart. This closeness to Allah is further magnified by the recitation of the Quran. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed, and it is a time when Muslims engage with it more than any other time of the year. The words of Allah take on a new meaning when read on an empty stomach, when the soul is yearning for nourishment beyond food and drink. The Quran becomes a source of comfort, a reminder of purpose, and a guide that leads the heart back to its creator. Each verse carries more weight, each lesson resonates more deeply, and each recitation strengthens the bond between the believer and their Lord. One of the most beautiful aspects of fasting is that it teaches sincerity in worship. When a person prays, gives charity, or performs any outward act of devotion, others may see it. But fasting is different. No one knows if a person is truly fasting except Allah. It is a private act of obedience, a silent declaration of faith that exists between the servant and the master. This sincerity, this ikhlas, is what makes fasting so beloved to Allah. It is an act done purely for Him with no expectation of recognition or praise from others. The only reward a believer seeks is from Allah, and He has promised an unimaginable reward for those who fast sincerely for His sake. The spiritual connection developed during Ramadan is also seen in the way a believer detaches from worldly distractions. Social media, entertainment, excessive speech, these things lose their appeal in the presence of fasting. The heart craves stillness, the soul longs for solitude with its creator, and the mind seeks reflection. This is why the last 10 nights of Ramadan are so special, because they are a time of complete devotion, of withdrawing from the world to be alone with Allah. The Prophet Muhammad would seclude himself in the masjid during these nights, dedicating himself entirely to worship. This act of itikaf serves as a reminder that true fulfillment is not found in material possessions or worldly pleasures, but in the presence of Allah. Through fasting, a believer experiences a level of humility and dependence on Allah that strengthens their faith beyond measure. They realize that without food, without water, without physical comforts, they are nothing. They are weak, they are fragile, and they are in constant need of their Creator's mercy. This awareness instills gratitude, deepens faith, and cultivates a reliance on Allah that extends far beyond Ramadan. It teaches that true strength is not in the body but in the heart that trusts Allah completely. This is why fasting in Ramadan is so special, because it is not just an act of worship but a journey of the soul. It is a time when barriers between the heart and its creator are removed, when the distractions of the world fade into insignificance, and when a believer stands before Allah in complete submission. It is a time of renewal, of purification, and of rediscovering the beauty of faith. The hunger and thirst of fasting are temporary, but the spiritual connection it builds lasts far beyond Ramadan. It leaves a mark on the heart, a transformation that shapes the believer long after the month is ended. It is a reminder that Allah is always near, always listening, and always ready to embrace His servant with mercy and love. Fasting in Ramadan is not merely an individual act of worship. It is a spiritual discipline that transforms the heart, mind, and soul. It instills self-control, discipline, and patience, shaping a believer into someone who is more mindful of their actions, words, and even thoughts. Throughout the day, a fasting person experiences physical hunger and thirst, but beyond that, they experience a deep spiritual purification that cannot be attained through any other act of worship. Ramadan is a month of intense training, one that teaches self-restraint, strengthens willpower, and purifies the soul from harmful habits and distractions. This is why Muslims fast only in Ramadan. It is not just about abstaining from food and drink, but about transforming one's character and soul in a way that has a lasting impact. When a person fasts, they gain mastery over their desires. The body craves food, but the heart commands patience. The tongue desires to speak carelessly, but the soul restrains it. The mind may wander towards negativity, but the spirit pulls it back towards remembrance of Allah. This control over one's lower self is the essence of Taqwa, God consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of fasting. Allah says in the Quran, "O you who have believed, fasting has been prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may attain Taqwa." 283, Taqwa is what prevents a person from sinning, what keeps the heart connected to Allah, and what ultimately leads to success in both this life and the hereafter. Fasting builds a deep sense of patience and resilience. It teaches that immediate gratification is not always the best path, that true reward comes to those who wait, and that enduring temporary discomfort leads to greater spiritual benefits. A person who can control their hunger and thirst can also control their anger, their ego, and their worldly temptations. This is why Ramadan is often called a school of discipline. It molds a believer into someone who is not just physically strong, but spiritually fortified. The patience learned through fasting extends beyond Ramadan, helping a person navigate the challenges of life with a calm and steadfast heart. In addition to discipline, fasting purifies the heart by removing distractions and increasing focus on what truly matters. In our daily lives, we are often consumed by worldly matters, work, social obligations, entertainment, and endless distractions. Ramadan forces a reset. When the body is deprived of excess indulgence, the soul begins to flourish. The heart becomes softer, the mind becomes clearer, and the soul finds peace in the remembrance of Allah. This is why those who fast experience an indescribable serenity, because their hearts are no longer weighed down by unnecessary desires, but are instead lifted by spiritual nourishment. Another powerful lesson of fasting is gratitude. When a person abstains from the basic necessities of life, even for a short time, they realize how much they take for granted. A sip of water at sunset feels like a divine blessing. A morsel of food tastes like a feast, and the ability to nourish the body becomes a gift rather than an expectation. This heightened sense of gratitude extends beyond food and drink. It applies to health, family, and all the blessings Allah has given. Gratitude softens the heart, removes arrogance, and brings a person closer to their Creator, who provides without limit. The purification of the heart in Ramadan is also achieved through the constant remembrance of Allah. Every moment of fasting is an act of worship, a silent declaration that the heart is devoted to its Creator. From the moment a person wakes up for suhoor to the moment they break their fast at sunset, they are engaged in ibadah, worship. They learn to make dhikr, remembrance of Allah, more frequently, to engage in extra prayers, to recite and reflect on the Quran, and to purify their hearts through acts of kindness and charity. The heart, once burdened by worldly distractions, becomes light, filled with the love and mercy of Allah. Perhaps the greatest sign of purification in Ramadan is the transformation that takes place within the soul. A person who may have struggled with their faith before Ramadan finds themselves drawn to prayer, to seeking forgiveness, to yearning for Allah's mercy. The nights spent in Taraweeh, the moments of dua before iftar, the tears shed in sujud, all of these moments reshape the heart, making it softer, more humble, and more connected to the divine. This transformation is why Muslims fast in Ramadan, because it is not just about the physical act of abstaining from food, but about cleansing the soul, elevating the heart, and drawing closer to the one who created it. As Ramadan teaches discipline, self-control, and gratitude, it leaves a lasting imprint on the hearts of believers. It is not just a month of fasting, it is a journey of spiritual transformation. Every moment spent in restraint, every prayer whispered in the quiet of the night, every tear shed in sincere repentance. These are the moments that reshape the soul, strengthen the faith, and bring a believer closer to their Creator. Ramadan is more than just an annual event. It is a divine training ground that refines the heart, purifies the soul, and reminds us of our true purpose in this life. Through fasting, we learn that true strength does not come from physical nourishment, but from the ability to control our desires and submit fully to the will of Allah. We learn that patience and hardship brings rewards beyond measure, and that through sacrifice, we attain something far greater than what we have given up. Ramadan teaches us that faith is not just about rituals, but about sincerity, devotion, and a conscious effort to better ourselves for the sake of Allah. As we approach the end of Ramadan, we must ask ourselves, what lessons will we carry forward? Will we continue to uphold the discipline we practiced? Will we maintain the humility, gratitude, and connection to Allah that we developed? The real success of Ramadan is not in completing the fasts, but in allowing the experience to transform us for the better. It is in ensuring that the purity of heart, the devotion and worship, and the closeness to Allah do not fade away once the month is over. Let Ramadan be a turning point. Let it be the moment where we strengthen our faith, refine our character, and renew our commitment to Allah. Let it be a time of reflection that shapes our future, a season of blessings that guides our path, and a reminder that no matter where we are in life, Allah's mercy is always near. I pray that Allah accepts our fasting, our prayers, and our repentance. I pray that He allows us to leave Ramadan as better Muslims than when we entered it. And I pray that He grants us the strength to carry forward the light of this blessed month throughout the rest of the year. Thank you for being a part of this journey, for taking the time to reflect, and for seeking to grow in faith and understanding. May Allah bless you, guide you, and grant you the best of both worlds. Keep striving, keep believing, and remember, Allah is always with you.